It's nice to chat with you. And you have built geodesic domes with your father, is that right?
Yes, I would say I was more of a helper. Hi, Raj. I'm Robin. We are fellow Aptera ambassadors.
Yeah, that's right. So how was kind of the project of setting up a geodesic home? Is the like permitting pretty open in your area to allow geodesic homes? Like some areas are kind of don't like them, some do.
Well, helping my father, I didn't see a lot of the um, paperwork and underlying um, legalities, but as far as I as far as I know, as long as you submit good architectural plans,
Hmm.
there's no problems. We've built them in towns and we've built them out in the country. So
Okay. And they're mainly there were wooden geodesic homes, is that right?
that's right. Stick and frame, I guess they call them the with two by four uh, structured with plywood nailed on to make the triangles, and then the triangles bolted together to make the hexagons and pentagon um, structure.
And what was the foundation usually like? Was it just a slab or did you have a basement sometimes?
Basements with the slab would be in the basement, and then we would have the floor would be a regular floor, and you could either make it, which I recommend, make it the footprint of the dome
Hmm.
for, and even you could even have stem walls that go up to increase your vertical space in the dome itself.
Okay.
Um, but you could also do a regular square floor. It's just that there's joints there that are more apt to leak.
Okay. How was it doing the roof with geodesic? It was like an asphalt roof on top on the outside? How'd that work?
They when we first started doing it, they would even paint like with a heavy duty paint. They would paint the outside of the plywood, and
Oh,
then it kind of went to cedar because of the exposure to cedar shakes shingles, and then it went. Now usually it's the asphalt shingles that just is most durable. It's not the prettiest, but
yeah.
it comes out with a pretty good roof still.
Okay. So asphalt's kind of the what you found to be the most reliable over time.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see what a pro panel or a metal roof would look like, but that would take some ingenuity, I think, to make it work.
Yeah, metal would be interesting because those do last a long time. How was it getting the windows and you have to have for the windows, what were they shaped like? And
There's been various shapes depending on what you're interested in. That we had skylights that were square, and then we've gone to a rectangle skylights, and
okay.
that's in the dome shell itself. But the openings where the dome meets the floor, there's openings that you can put in whatever window you want. Bay window, octagons are great because it kind of goes with the geodesic shape of the roof. Um, but yeah, it's just up to you. I've seen where they have a framework for the hexagon, and the whole structure is windows.
Hmm.
If they really want a lot of light and visibility.
That was fascinating. What size diameter domes did you build the most often or that people wanted?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if I can remember, but they we had three main sizes, if I remember, and the small one was in the teens for the diameter across, and
Okay.
then medium would be maybe in the 20s up to the big in the 30s, 30 foot across the floor.
Were these mainly built as their primary living structure? Was it an additional building for these people?
Primary.
Primary. That's cool. That's a very unique space to be in, and you've lived in one, is that right? For
Yes, I grew up from the age of 7. I helped my father with the one we lived in until I went to college, and he tried to hold on to it. But after the kids moved out, it was a big, it was the medium sized dome, but it was on top of a full basement.
Mhm.
He just he ended up selling it.
What kind of things did you like about the dome growing up?
Well, the location, of course. We were next to the national forest, and so I could
Oh,
walk out and um, hike and whatever. But it was just in the winter because it was up in the mountains with the. It's just such a cozy, kind of an igloo feeling.
hmm.
No matter what the weather was outside, you could start a fire in the. We had a potbelly stove that we heated the house with, and you could start a fire, and it was cozy as ever. And I just and then the way that we had built ours with the open floor space in the attic, there was lots of places to hang on the structure, um, and jump around and run around, and so I really enjoyed that growing up.
Do you have a picture of the stove?
The stove, the potbelly. There's a in one of the last brochures. There's a picture of the new stove that
Okay.
where the potbelly was,
Hmm.
but we had the stovepipe running up higher into the wall here. But that's all you need
That's
to.
enough to heat the whole space, huh?
Mhm.
So it was pretty comfortable in the hot and cold.
Yep, yep. We had a fan at the top of the dome that would circulate the air, and we never needed air conditioning or anything like that.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
yeah, but we were at 8,000 feet too, so
Oh, okay.
elevation. So, but yeah, that stove would heat you out if you weren't careful.
That's fascinating. What was you remember any kind of maintenance over the years that needed to be done on the dome?
We had issues with leaking because we had a square basement that the dome was the I think it's a hexagonal floor
Okay.
footprint on the dome. And so as we slowly built out on top of those corners that stuck out on the basement, there would be before we built out the roof for rooms or just added extra roofs to that basement, we were having problems with leaking.
Okay. Was the basement like underground or was it above ground?
It was a half buried. It was open on the south side there. It was on a hillside.
Okay. And the roof was pretty stable over the years as far as
Yep.
leaks.
Yep. No problems. And we even like I said, we had the square skylights and we expanded those through the structure to make rectangles and they were watertight.
Okay. So really, 'cause that's one thing I hear people say when they hear a wooden dome is leaks, but if you do the roof right, it's pretty solid, it sounds like, right?
Yeah, you got good drainage, um, as long as know what you're doing.
Yeah. You have any other photos of the dome that you kind of grew up in that you can share?
Well, this is in the winter, and I had a couple motorcycles, but you could see it's kind of a
Um,
nice little igloo type of
does
a
the
feel.
snow slide off because it doesn't really have a lot of places to collect, right?
Well, the cedar shakes, it kind of collected, but it added to the insulative value. Um,
Like the load was no problem, or the weight.
that's the thing, yeah, with that round structure, it really is strong for snow loads and the wind shear. The wind just
Goes
um,
around it.
yeah, there's no flat spaces for the wind to catch up on.
So you
And
probably have some pretty good gusts up that high, right?
yeah, they weren't. We were in the trees there, so it wasn't
Uh,
crazy. But I think, especially with the asphalt shingles that are being put on domes now, I think they're really good against wind.
that's
And I'm trying
fascinating.
to think, as far as here's one in the summer, you can see the pop out to the dome, and we put some hexagonal windows in that. That's the outside of the kitchen.
Oh, okay.
And this is another view of the entryway. That this was the pop out that we built the entry door into, and that's one
Okay.
of the walls,
Hmm.
pentagon
Yeah, I love the
walls.
look of the domes. It's just very. I haven't been in any wooden ones. I've been in like those Pacific domes that are more kind of vinyl, I guess. But just
Mm.
like the structure just is very cozy. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just you feel comfortable in there, and it's the sound travels really strangely or uniquely in there, right? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, no, the acoustics. We had a nice stereo with floor speakers um, to the side of where the stove was, and in the part of the dome that went all the way to the top and didn't have the loft in, and it just created the amphitheater effect,
Hmm,
so that the sound was really phenomenal.
that's awesome. Yeah, what other kind of unique things have you noticed about building the domes or living in it over the years?
One of the things that my father was um, excited to share with people, besides the efficiency of the
Hmm.
dome being with the roof integrated into the walls, was how fast you could have a livable space when you're building it. If you got a stack of triangles and you have a floor in the morning, in a day or two, you could bolt those triangles together and make your structure. Put some drop some plastic on the openings, and you already have a place to stay in it, and then you can just work on it as you have time to finish it and furnish it and fit out all the utilities and everything else. So that was one thing that he was pretty proud of. Didn't take long at all to raise the roof, so to speak.
Right, because it cost wise, it's dramatically less than a traditional house, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean it helps that uh, the roof and the walls are integrated, so it helps decrease the cost. But they aren't as cheap as you might think because of the all the labor making the triangles, because there's
Mm.
compound cuts and assembly. But yeah, it can be cost effective.
How many people did it take to kind of create a dome, or how long did it take to get the basic shell in place?
Like I said, if you had the triangles already prefabricated, then you could with maybe three people, one person on the ground and two on scaffolding, placing and bolting the triangles together. You could do it in a couple of days.
Hmm. So they bolt together on each of the inside edges. Is that how they go together?
Yep. The triangles. So like here's a good inside view in the kitchen, and you
Okay.
can see the triangles would just you just stack them on top of each other, and then Either
Oh,
have pre-drilled holes and line them up, or just drill as you go up,
so
and
they're
then
pretty
bolt.
long, like lag bolts or something that connect
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
them. Hmm,
That's what we would do. You could even nail it, but it'd be better for strength to
the bolt.
bolt them.
Do you think that's why some other domes you've heard about might have had issues because they just nailed it? And it wasn't as structurally, I guess, compressed as you did it.
Strong. I haven't heard of too many problems, to be honest, with other domes. Have you?
I haven't heard anybody personally. I just that's always something that people come back with when I see comments on things like they leak and you've said no, and I know someone else that's lived in a dome and they didn't have that issue either. So I think it's
Yeah,
just people just kind of they don't know about it and they're just kind of making up stuff.
yeah. There's so many different types of domes too. So it could be depending on the type that you. The monolithic domes are pretty interesting. They're very strong, um, very heavy because it's a blown concrete, as far as I understand.
Oh,
Um,
aircrete. Yeah, those are fascinating too.
but there's actually a new um, in Pagosa Springs. I'm in Colorado. In Pagosa Springs, there's a new set of about 10 real small domes there that are available to for the night to rent out. I'm really interested in trying to stay there and see how that they look like. Not necessarily geodesic, more Buckminster Fuller type of golf ball type domes.
Okay. Yeah, I think those might be like Pacific domes because those are,
I have a radial spoke or something like that.
yeah, they're metal framed and then they got like a vinyl on the outside.
Yeah,
Did you do any insulation inside I guess the walls and the ceiling, or is it just the
yeah.
wood?
There's a I forget. That's something that the R values increased quite dramatically with that shape. Whereas you can insulate with 3.5 inch fiberglass bats is what we used,
Yeah,
and it would be instead of I can't remember exactly, but maybe instead of an R7, it'd be an R11 or something like that.
that's pretty dramatic. Hmm. I'm trying to
And
think
then
of anything else. Go ahead.
well, the inside of the panel, the interior walls. At first, we used paneling, photo
Hmm.
paneling, and
Yeah,
then also tongue and groove aspen for
pretty.
yeah, it makes for a real nice, pretty wall.
Hmm.
Almost reminds me of like a God's eye
Yeah.
uh, design.
How high was the dome from the floor to the ceiling?
I'm saying recollect about 17 feet
Hmm.
to the
That's nice
middle.
to have that height above you.
Yeah, it makes for a real nice tall ceiling. It's like a lot of these new houses. That's the thing, vaulted ceilings, and this was just part of the structure.
Yeah.
And they're very efficient, not dead space like a lot of the stick frame homes that are made now.
Because the heat would kind of get trapped because at the top, because it had nowhere to go. It can't circulate like the dome that you've made.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's all the questions I had. Is there anything else you want to share about the building or living the dome life?
Um, I miss it. I thought about buying back our house, but being as remote as it is, and my wife's not a rural girl, but um, I recommend it anybody that is living it wants to live off the grid or with more with nature. Um, it's a efficient and very nice way to habitate.
Yeah. That was one question I had. Well, how was the kind of furniture placement in general with more of like a round space? How was that?
There was, well, with the not having vertical walls was probably the biggest issue. You couldn't hang artwork or, um, you could, I would still, as a kid, I lived in the loft and I put a lot of posters up. But you just had to tack every corner. You couldn't
Right.
hang it. Um, but the floor plan makes it interesting, but it didn't seem to be a problem. You still would have the vertical walls at the openings, if you really needed it, but
Mhm.
um, it made it. I thought it was very made for a nice furniture arrangements, nice spaces. Like I said, the amphitheater effect. So you could set your couch out from the wall and have the your entertainment projecting towards you from this concave wall, and you'd get better acoustics and um, I don't know about visual so much. You still have the flat screen,
Yeah.
but I thought it was never had any problems, or it made for some nice furniture arrangements.
That's cool. Well, thanks for sharing your time and your experiences with growing up in a dome and helping to build them. It's very fascinating, something that I definitely would like to live in one day. It's
My
nice to hear
pleasure.
about it.
I really recommend it, and maybe one day I'll find myself in one again too.
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tosh.